हरि बोल।
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Pranam Prabhu. Yeah.
Hare बोल Pranam. Yes.
Prabhu, over to you. You can start.
Yes. I'll
Just
start with
Kirtan, Deepa Mata ji
Yes.
did the Kirtan. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, that's right.
రెండు చేస్తాను అనేసాను. సో ఇక్కడ కంప్లీట్ చేసుకొని she can she will any
Hare Krishna. Just start with a small kirtan. जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्तवृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे। जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे। जय राधा रमण राधा रमण राधे। जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे। जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा। जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा। जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम। जय वृंदावन धाम जय वृंदावन धाम वृंदावन धाम जय वृंदावन धाम। जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनि। जय पंचतत्व जय पंचतत्व पंचतत्व जय पंचतत्व। जय षड्गोस्वामी गण जय षड्गोस्वामी गण षड्गोस्वामी गण जय षड्गोस्वामी गण। Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jaya Gaura Hari Bol. Vyamishpat Brahma Prachkachara Stotra Siddhas Message Congress of Charan Bhakti Samshla Prabhat Maharaj ki jai. ISKCON Samsap ka Shla Prabhat Maharaj ki jai. Jagat Guru Shla Prabhat Maharaj. Vyamishpat Brahma Prachkachara Stotra Siddhas Message Congress Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Ananta Koti Acharya Vrinda ki jai. Namachar Shla Dastakur ki jai. Prem se ko jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Radhagun Shyam Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय, मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की जय, जगन्नाथपुरी द्वारका धाम की जय, गंगे में यमुना माई की जय, तुलसी भक्ति देव की जय, समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद ट्रांसलेट बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय. All glories to assembled duties, all glories to assembled duties, all glories to assembled, all glories to all glories, Shri Guru Shri Gaur, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. So welcome to all devotees for today's Nityam Bhagavata session. We are in second canto, fifth chapter, and 22nd to 29 shlokas. Hare Krishna. So I'll just start my prayers. Om Agnana Timrandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vande Ham Shri Gurum Shriuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupam Sagraja Damsagana Ragana Tanvitam Tam Sachi Vamsat Dvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namasute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shabhan Sute Devi Pranamami Haripri Vancha Kalpatarusha Krupa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jai Mudhirayet Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Can the shlokas be displayed on the screen, please?
Yes, Prabhu. Mataji, Suma Mataji will share the screen.
Yes, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Suma Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji, I will be sharing.
Yes, thank you.
I'm very sorry.
No, it's okay. So today's chapter is titled Cause of All Causes. And here there is a conversation between Brahma, Narada Muni, where Narada Muni is explaining about how this creation has been done. As we understand in the initial phases, that Narada Muni thinks that his father Brahma has done all the creation because he is in charge of creation. So he thinks that he is the one who has done it. But later on, Brahma explains, no, I'm not the one. I've only been empowered. I've only been asked to do certain things. I've been given some authority to do. and I have been assisted, guided by the Lord, Krishna, Vasudeva, Narayana, all that he says in these shlokas. In the 15th shloka especially is very, very significant, 15, 16 and all that. So then he explains that, no, he is the one who has done it. Initially, Narad Muni thinks that, and he gives an example like how a spider, how it weaves the web through its saliva, and it's such a great formation, the whole the web with so perfect geometric calculations, and it is web. The web is created, and it cannot be torn so easily. And that way, how the insects can be captured. I mean, that is one way of getting their food. The spider gets the food by doing this as a camouflage. It makes we all know that. So like that, he says, and then he says, no. Finally, he says, no. Okay, it appears everything that I'm doing it. I have done it through this cobweb, what you're explaining, but actually, it is not the case. It is actually the Narayana who is doing. And then in this 15 shloka, Narayana Paraveda, Narayana Deva, Narayana Angajaha, Narayana Paraloka, Narayana Paramakaha. So this is shloka number 15. So here Narayana Paraveda. So he is the supreme cause, and he's he's the one who is giving us the full of knowledge. He's made of full of knowledge, and whatever knowledge we gain should be gaining knowledge about the Supreme Lord. And then Deva Narayana Angajaha. So here the demigods Deva, Narayana Angajaha. It's very clear that they are meant for serving the Lord as parts of his body. So that is how the demigods are explained here. Very clear that they are simply the servants. So even if you are doing any service to the demigods, obviously the demigods will render all those whatever offerings, they will give it directly to Narayana or Krishna. So Narayana Para Loka, and then he is the supreme abode, Narayana Para Makaha. And whatever sacrifices, whatever offerings we do, it is reaching Narayana. It has to reach Narayana. Only then that yajna will be completed. So like this, it is explained. And finally, we come to the actual creation part, how the creation is taking place. And here, a very detailed explanation is given. So we'll come to this 22. Kaladyuna Vyatikaraha Parinamaha Swabhavataha Karmano Janma Mahataha Purusha Dhishtata Adbhut. Word by word meaning. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Kalat, from eternal time. Guna Vyatikaraha, transformation of the modes by reaction. Parinamaha, transformation. Swabhavataha, from the nature. Karmanaha, of activities. Janma, creation. Mahataha, of the Mahatattva. Purusha Adhishtithat, because of the Purusha incarnation of the Lord. Abhut, it took place. Translation. After the incarnation of the first Purusha, Karanarna Vashai Vishnu, the Mahatattva, or the principles of material creation, take place, and then time is manifested. And in course of time, the three qualities appear. Nature means the three qualitative appearances. They transform into activities. Purport. By the omnipotency of the Supreme Lord, the whole material creation evolves by the process of transformation and reactions one after another. And by the supreme and the same omnipotency, they are wound up again one after another and conserved in the body of the Supreme. Kala, or time, is the synonym of nature and is a transformed manifestation of the principles of material creation. As such, Kala may be taken as the first cause of all creation. And by transformation of nature, different activities of the material world become visible. So these activities may be taken up as the natural instinct of each and every living being, or even of the inert objects. And after the manifestation of activities, there are varieties of products and byproducts of the same nature. Originally, these are all due to the Supreme Lord. The Vedanta Sutras and the Bhagavatam thus begin with the absolute truth as the beginning of all creations, Janmadi Asya Yataha. So here it is very clearly mentioned how the creation is first done by through the agency of first Purusha. There are actually 3 Purusha avatars. The first one is Karnodaka Shai Vishnu or Karna Arnava Shai Vishnu. And then you have Garbhodaka Shai Vishnu, from where Brahma takes his birth. And then we have the Kshirodaka Sai Vishnu, where Vishnu is lying at the milk ocean, Kshira, milk ocean. And this Vishnu is the one who is approached by all the demigods. Whenever there is a distress or whenever they need his help, they come to the Kshirodaka Sai Vishnu, and then Kshirodaka Sai Vishnu gives them the direction, and this is how the activities takes place. So these 3 Purushas are there who are in charge of this material world. They actually direct all the living entities. And then here the mention of the Mahat Tattva is also there, which is actually the summum bonum of the entire cosmic manifestation is held in this Mahat Tattva. All the materials, what is required for the creation is in this Mahat Tattva as a complete composite form. And prior to this, the Lord actually meditates upon, and then he creates the Pradhana. Pradhana is the one which comes prior to Mahatattva, and Pradhana, once it is when it is given the life, the energy, that becomes the Mahatattva. And Mahatattva is just ready to start the creation. So prior to that, it is the Pradhana, which is kind of an unmanifested situation. And here Mahatattva manifests, and then combined with the time, as it is mentioned here, combined with the 3 modes of nature, the Kala, the activities, all this transform into activities. That's what is very clearly mentioned here. And as Prabhupada finally says that originally all these are due to Supreme Lord. Everything, he is the cause of all causes. As Brahma says in the Brahma Samhita also, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda, Sarva Karana, Karana. Sarva Karana, cause of all causes. And even this shloka which I read, 15th and 16th shloka also, he's talking about Narayana only, and that he is the all pervading, and he is the one who is giving, who is the father of all creation. So like that, it is everything is ultimately Krishna. I think some to be muted, I think. And the Vedanta Sutras, Bhagavatam, everything starts with, even Bhagavatam starts with the first, the shloka, as we all know, that it starts with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and then it tells about the shloka. The shloka starts as Janmad Asya Yataha, from Janma. Actually, Janma in the sense that there is something called as a birth, but it is actually not the birth. It is actually eternally, it is there. It is, from times immemorial, this the creation is there. I mean, we can say that even if suppose when there is a dissolution, the pralaya happens, and then when a new creation starts, so that also could be termed as Janma. But for the Lord, as he is there eternally, he is existing, and it cannot be guesstimated by us. But still, for this purpose of our understanding, so it is starting with Janmadi Asyataha. That is, he is there eternally from the beginning. It is mentioned. So that is how we should construe it. Janmadi Asyataha itarasya charteshva abhigna swarat anvayad itara charteshva abhigna swarat tene brahma hrudaya adikavye mukhyanti atsureha tejo vari mridam yatha vinimaya yatra trisargo amrisha dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. And then he is the supreme absolute truth. On to him we are meditating. That's what Satyam Param Dhimahi. This is how Vyasdev starts with this invocation. And so we'll go to the next shlokas and try to understand what all the other characteristics of this creation. I think quite a few lengthy purports are also there. So I'll request, yeah, Mataji, somebody has already raised the hand. Whoever has raised, they can start reading the shloka and the translation, and some purports can be read by the others. Hare Krishna. So Nirmala Mataji can start.
महतस्तु विकुर्वाणात् राजसत्वोप ब्रह्मितात् तमः प्रतानस्त्वभवत् द्रव्यज्ञानकृत्यात्मकः. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Material activities are caused by the Mahat Tattvas being agitated. At first, there is the transformation of the modes of goodness and passion, and later, due to the mode of ignorance, matter is its knowledge, and different activities of material knowledge come into play. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Parpadaka, you can read, madam. Mataji.
Okay.
Some portion.
Yeah. Material creation of every descriptions are more or less due to development of mode of passion only. Rajas, the Mahat Tattva is the principle of material creation. When it is agitated by the will of a supreme, at first the mode of passion and goodness are prominent, and afterwards the modes of passion being generated in due course by material activities of different varieties becomes prominent, and the living entities are thus involved more and more in ignorance. Brahma is the representation of the mode of passion, and Vishnu is the representation of the mode of goodness, while the mode of ignorance is represented by Lord Shiva, the father of material activities. Material nature is called the mother, and the initiator for materialistic life is father, Lord Shiva. All material creation by the living entities is therefore initiated by the mode of passion. With the advancement of the duration of life in a particular millennium, the different modes of act by gradual development in the as such age of Kali, when the mode of passion is more prominent. Material activities of different varieties in the name of advancement of human civilization take place, and the living entities become more and more involved in forgetting their real identity, the spiritual nature. By the living entities become by a slight cultivation of the mode of goodness, a glimpse of spiritual nature is perceived. But due to the prominence of the mode of passion, the mode of goodness becomes adulterated. The limits of the material mode of passion. The mode of goodness becomes adulterated. Therefore, one can transcend in the limits of material modes, and therefore realization of the Lord, who is always transcendental to the modes of material nature, becomes Mataji, it is scrolled. Material modes, and therefore realization of the Lord, who is always transcendental to the modes of material nature, becomes very difficult for the living entities, even though prominently situated in the mode of goodness through cultivation of the various methods. In other words, the cross matters or abhibhutam. Their maintenance is abhibhutam. Okay. Maintenance is Adi Devam, and the initiator of material activities is called Adhyatmam. In the material world, these three principles act as prominent features, namely a raw material, its regular supplies, and is used in different varieties of material creations for sense enjoyment by the bewildered entities. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Very well. So, such a wonderful purport Prabhupada has explained. Is so taken so much of patience in explaining this, and just by reading this, we can easily understand how these three modes are playing such a major role in this material world. So, as the shloka says, that material activities are caused by the Mahatattva being agitated. Like as I mentioned, that by the supreme will of the Lord, he by his intention, he will ensure that the Mahatattva is agitated. The moment it is agitated, it is ready. It is just like, like some we have seen some chemicals where the chemicals are there in their own mode, inert mode, but by adding some other element or a catalyst, or some air or water, whatever it is, it could be, the whole thing gets agitated, and it transforms into different byproducts and byproducts. So like that, this Mahatattva will get, by the glance of the Lord, it will get slightly agitated, and the energy, the Chaitanya for the creation, Mahatattva, will start. And As Prabhupada says, initially it will be passion, goodness. These were prominent. Later on, it all gets converted into ignorance. Ultimately, because by our activities, the entities, the living entities' activities, it will all become, into this, convert into ignorance. Although we are in the platform of, say, sometimes in the passion, or sometimes in rajas, the modes which are there, but still goodness, sometimes you are in the goodness, but still just by slightest cause of the tama, then it will all get converted. Just like how the curd is formed, the milk, just the one drop of that curd, if you mix it with the milk, that's it, the whole milk will become curd. And what is curd actually? Curd is actually consisting of all the bacteria. All the those bacteria are the ones which will make this form. The whole thing will become sour after, if you keep it for a long time. The milk is considered very sweet, but by the mixture of this one drop, the whole milk will become curd. So that is how material nature also will get influenced, and the whole thing goes into the mode of ignorance. I mean, in this Kali Yuga especially, we are seeing that a lot of most of the activities, what is happening, most of the people, the way they are behaving, it is all in the mode of ignorance. It's very rare you find that people are taking up to taking their lives in the mode of goodness. Only devotees are there, who are there. It could be demigod worshippers, or it could be Krishna devotees, whoever it is. Most of they are the ones who are actually trying to elevate themselves to the Sattvagun. So like that. So here, what we have to understand is that the combination and permutation, how it works. Actually, it's just the three modes, but a mix of these three modes will create at least about 81 different types of varieties of propensities. So basically, sattva, rajas, and tama. So these three. Now there's a combination of sattva and rajas, sattva and tama. Then raja and tama, raja and sattva. So like this, the 3 into 3 becomes 9, and this 9 again in a combination of each of these 9 will become 81. It will give 81 different combinations. Prabhupada explains that this way our propensities, individuals' propensities, keep on increasing, and finally the mode of goodness also becomes adulterated. It loses because the living entity is forgetting his real identity, which is the spiritual nature. So the moment he starts going in that platform, or his activities are in that platform, then that's it, gone. So the entire process will start diluting. And finally, Prabhupada mentions that, in other words, the gross matters are Adibhutam. So as we say, there are 3 major difficulties that we face in our life. Adi Daivam, Adhyatmam, and Adi Bhautik. Adi Bhautik is the one which is created due to our material, our existence, of the nature, due to the eccentricities of the nature. Then we face some difficulties. Adi Bhautik. And then Adi Daivam. These are actually Adi Bhutam also includes that created by other entities, living entities, and other, it could be animals, it could be other creatures which will give us trouble. And then Adi Daivam is actually the forces of the nature of the Lord. Like it could be some calamity, like a famine, it could be a storm, it could be cyclone, all this kind of a thing. And then Adhyatma. Adhyatmic is actually our own created problems with the body, mind, and the soul. So it is something to do with the person himself, and these are the 3 ways of getting into our problems. So by a combination of all these, we get into trouble, and we have seen that we face these kinds of difficulties, and we suffer ultimately. So in the material world, these 3 principles act as prominent features, namely as raw material, regular supplies, and its different varieties of material creations for sense enjoyment by the bewildered entities. So that's why Prabhupada gives these 3 Adi Bhautam, Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika, and Adhyatmika, as explains as these in these three different ways. And finally, the entity will be bewildered unless he comes to Krishna consciousness, unless he takes to surrender, Sharanagati, and then takes a spiritual guru, and then comes to the spiritual practices or a sadhana, then he'll always be entangled in this material world. So that is how there is one very wonderful story which conveys the real message of our how we have to, why we have to take to Sharanagati and why we have to accept a guru. So once it so happens that there is a cow, a herd of cows, they're grazing as normal, and they just go out of the village, for greener pastures. And after having gone to the just outside the greener pastures, and it so happens that they enter into the forest area. And once they enter into the forest area, one of the cows gets it loses its way and then goes into the deep jungle. As it goes into the deep jungle, it is actually very it's so much afraid that it's always thinking that my life is in danger. It tries to comes back, but somehow it is not able to get back to its way, and then it's almost like evening time. So it is kind of in a helpless situation. It is trying to wander. It's wandering away. At that moment, since it is in the midst of the jungle, a tiger comes and then it attacks the cow. And the cow is already scared. And the moment it sees the tiger, it just gets completely scared, and then it jumps from there. As it jumps, it falls into a whirlpool. Whirlpool, we know, the suli, or the where the mud is so sticky, and water also is just if something is dropped into that, if the weight is there in that whirlpool, it'll actually pull down the person also. So it gets into that, and the whole mud and the whole earth is actually sinking. It is going down because of the weight of the cow also. It is trying to escape, come out, because at the other end of this whirlpool, the muddy area, is actually the tiger, and it is going to have its food. The tiger is having its food. It's ready to have its food. So it's afraid. By the time it comes out, then it is actually sinking. And on the other side, it's called the quicksand. On the other side, the tiger also is the same situation. Now it wants to have its food, but it is not able to come inside. If it knows, tiger also knows that if I come inside, I'll also be sinking. So that way it waits for a few minutes, but then it thinks, okay, no, I am anyway powerful. Let me go and then catch my prey. I'm already hungry. And then it tries to come and catch the cow. But the cow, Gomata, is always praying throughout. She knows that she is in distress, and she is praying. She is taking the names, and then she is also loudly calling out, Amba, Amba, like that. It is calling out. So now this, and then it is most of the times it is doing some kind of a prayer. So the tiger is also after a few minutes it sees, and then it is also little surprised. What is this? This cow seems to be in a very prayerful mood. It is calling out somebody, and then so like that it is also gets a surprise. And then finally he also understands, the tiger, that the cow is very peaceful, whereas the tiger is actually in great distress, because it's not getting its prey, and then it is trying so many different ways, and it is always thinking that I am the most powerful animal. I can eat anyone, like that. And then egoistically it is thinking that way, and it wants to eat the cow, but it's not able to do that. So he also gets despair. And then finally he observes that this cow is very in a meditative mood and very calm and composed and all that. So finally the tiger asks, what is this? I'm seeing you from long time. It's almost now 2-3 hours. You are always in a very calm mode. Actually, you are in danger. You're not. I cannot see that feeling in you. You seem to be very calm and composed. What is it? So the cow says, yeah, tiger. Yeah, now just in another few minutes from now, the sun is going to set, and I'm very sure that my master is going to come. He's going to come in search of me. That is why I'm calling out, Amba, Amba. I'm calling out, and my master will recognize my voice and he knows my distress condition, and then he will come and save me. So this is the message. Then the tiger gets a shock. My God. So then the cow asks the tiger, "Do you have a master?" And the tiger really gets bewildered. My God. I was thinking I'm the I have everything, and I'm the king of this jungle, all these things. But now I got the realization that you're telling that I don't have a master. But whereas the cow, even though it is a very humble, soft animal, but it is having a master. So the confidence which the cow said, and then finally the cow the question when it asked, "Do you have a master?" So this we have to always contemplate, and then think that we should always need a master. We need a guru. We need a spiritual guru. We need some guiding devotees. Only then we can grow. Only then we can be protected. Only then, despite any kind of a danger, we can always be saved. So this episode clearly indicates how much we have to be surrendered, how much we have to take the shelter of senior devotees and a guru especially. Hare Krishna. So let us go to Shloka 24. I think Vanamali Mataji, Vasudha Mataji can read. Hare Krishna. The Shloka and the translation can read. Then Divya Gopu also can share the purport for some time.
Vasudha Mataji? Prabhu, we can ask from Divya Mataji then.
Yeah, anybody can.
Yeah, Divya Mataji, you can read.
Okay, Mataji, thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
2.5.24. So ahankara iti prokto vikurvan samabhutrida vaikarikas taijasascha tamasascheti yadbhida dravya shakti priya shaktir jnana shaktir iti prabho. Mataji.
Yes.
Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The self-centered materialistic ego, thus being transformed into three features, becomes known as the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance in three divisions, namely the powers that evolve matter, knowledge of material creations, and intelligence that guides such materialistic activities. Narada, you are quite competent to understand this. Can I read the purport also?
Yeah, one paragraph.
Okay, Prabhu. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Materialistic ego, or the sense of identification with matter, is grossly self-centered, devoid of clear knowledge of the existence of God. And this self-centered egoism of the materialistic living entities is the cause of their being conditioned by the other paraphernalia and continuing their bondage of material existence. In the Bhagavad Gita, this self-centered egoism is very nicely explained in the 7th chapter, verses 24 through 27. The self-centered impersonalist, without a clear conception of the personality of Godhead, concludes in his own way that the personality of Godhead takes a material shape from his original impersonal spiritual existence for a particular mission. And this misleading conception of the Supreme Lord by the self-centered impersonalist continues, even though he is seen to be very interested in the Vedic literatures such as the Brahma Sutras and the other highly intellectual sources of knowledge. This ignorance of the personal feature of the Lord is due simply to ignorance of the mixture of different modes. The impersonalist thus cannot conceive of the Lord's eternal spiritual form of the eternal knowledge, bliss, and existence. The reason is that the Lord reserves the right of not exposing himself to non-devotee who, even after a thorough study of literature like the Bhagavad Gita, remains an impersonalist simply by obstinacy. This obstinacy is due to the action of Yoga Maya, a personal energy of the Lord that acts like an aide de camp by covering the vision of the obstinate impersonalist. Such a bewildered human being is described as mudha, or grossly ignorant, because he is unable to understand the transcendental form of the Lord as being unborn and unchangeable. If the Lord takes a form or material shape from the original impersonal feature, then it means that he is born and changeable from impersonal to personal. Mataji, can you please? But he is not changeable, nor does he ever take a new birth like a conditioned soul. The conditioned soul may take a form birth after birth due to his conditional existence in matter, but the self-centered impersonalists, by their gross ignorance, accept the Lord as one of them because of self-centered egoism, even after so-called advancement of knowledge in the Vedanta. The Lord, being situated in the heart of every individual living entity, knows very well the tendency of such conditioned souls in terms of past, present, and future. But the bewildered conditioned soul hardly can know him in his eternal form. By the will of the Lord, therefore, the impersonalists, even after knowing the Brahman and Paramatma features of the Lord, remain ignorant of his eternal personal feature as ever existent Narayana, transcendental to all material creation. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Mataji. Yeah. So the next person. Read. Vasudha Mataji can read.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I can.
Yes. Yes.
The cause of such gross ignorance is constant engagement by the materialistic man in the matter of artificially increasing material demands. To realize the supreme personality of Godhead, one has to purify the materialistic senses by devotional service. The mode of goodness or the Brahmanical culture recommended in the Vedic literatures is helpful to such spiritual realization. And thus the Jnana Sakti stage of the conditioned soul is comparatively better than the other two stages, namely Dravya Shakti and Kriya Shakti. The whole material civilization is manifested by a huge accumulation of materials, or in other words, raw materials for industrial purposes, and the industrial enterprises Kriya Shakti are all due to gross ignorance of spiritual life. In order to rectify this great anomaly of materialistic civilization based on the principles of Dravya Shakti and Kriya Shakti, one has to adopt the process of devotional service of the Lord by adoption of the principles of Karma Yoga mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 2.7 as follows. Yat karosi, yat asnasi, yat jushosi, dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna. Yeah, thanks, Mataji. So in this purport, Prabhupada very clearly mentions how this ego, ahankara, which is there, actually the true ego means, the real ego means he was a subservient to the Lord, who understands the supremacy of the Lord and he is surrendered. But when it comes to ahankara, it becomes a false ego. So this false ego is the one which is completely keeping away from the Lord. And he is self-centered, he is completely in the materialistic way of thinking, and he wants to enjoy life. So because of their misunderstanding, their lack of knowledge, so they take this, whatever is there as per the matter, what is appearing is actually the real, the true, that this is the way the true, our spiritualism works. But actually, they are actually taking the Brahma Jyoti, the effulgence of the Lord, which is the impersonal form, as the Lord himself, as that is the one which is giving, which is the Lord. I mean, that is the one which is actually to be worshipped. That is their misconception. So they don't understand that Lord has a form and Lord is also a person, similarly like is a person, but unlike us, he is having a Satchidananda Vigraha. Is a Sat means the absolute truth, and Chit is the complete intelligence with the full awareness, and the Ananda, complete, who can give, who has the full complete happiness. So this is the form, whereas ours is actually ours also is the soul is also is a Satchidananda Vigraha, but it's a very minute form, whereas the Lord has got that potency Satchidananda Vigraha in a as like an ocean, so that much large it is. So the self-centered person, egoistic person, since he's not able to comprehend the personal form of the Lord, he becomes a Mayavadi. He becomes a Brahmavadi. He just concludes that Lord is the Brahma Jyoti, and if I worship him, worship this Jyoti, that is enough. That is the Lord. And then he doesn't take up, although he does the practices of Veda, Shastras, all that he reads, but he, because of his obstinacy, Prabhupada's mentioned, obstinacy means very hata, or he just don't want to listen to anyone by his own previous vasanas, or by his own previous understanding. He thinks that what he is doing is right. So finally, Prabhupada says that he is considered as muda, grossly ignorant, because he is unable to understand the transcendental form of the Lord as unborn or unchangeable, and that is how they suffer. Life after life, they keep doing the same thing, and they commit the same mistake, and then they think that Lord is impersonal. Lord is I can there is no form of him. And then they also look at how Krishna came, how Rama came. Although they are the Supreme Lord, they came as in the human form. Of course, there is a various reason why they came, and they think that they also came, they also suffered. So I'm also there. I also look, I also take birth here, and I'm also suffering here. So what is the difference between me and them? So like this, they make wrong assumptions, and then finally they suffer. Actually, the problem is that they're not able to understand the transcendental form of the Lord, and the whole problem is due to their ignorance, avidya. And that's how finally Prabhupada mentions that the spiritual knowledge will come, which is the Gnana Shakti stage. You should have some basic information first. Then you should approach the senior devotees and go to the authorized parampara, bona fide teachers or bona fide guru, and then you'll get the real knowledge. Like how we have Prabhupada who came, he gave us the complete knowledge. Like that, we need such a founder acharya. That the Gnana Shakti stage, which is actually the first stepping stone. But most of the people in today's world are in the Dravya Shakti and Kriya Shakti. What is this Dravya Shakti? Is all about accumulating money, materials, and use of that materials. And then Kriya Shakti is an activity, how they engage in industrial activity or in service activity, whatever it is, for just some material advancement. So this Dravya Shakti and Kriya Shakti is because they're all, both of them are matter. It is not going to be permanent. It is going to be temporary nature, and it is not going to give you happiness. So that is the final understanding. So the best practice is that Bhakti Yoga. So that is explained in the 9.27 in that shloka. So like when we say at the end of each and every activity, our mind, and when we are telling we do some karmic activity and some philanthropic activity, or maybe some religious activity, and then we finally say, what does that mean? Finally say, after doing all this activity, we'll finally say Krishna Arpanam. So that is, everything is offered to Krishna. Whatever I have done, all the fruits to Krishna. But that is only a lip service. What actually we want, suppose we do some homa, we do some japa, or whatever it is, we attend the temple and some program and give some dana, austerity, we do some alms we give and donation we give, we say Krishnarpanam. But what actually, it should be completely surrendered. We should not worry about the results. But in our mind, in our heart, what is actually there is Krishna Arpanam. In Panam, in Tamil means money, wealth. So either Krishna or Panam. So we will not, but we will not choose for Krishna. We will ask only Panam, 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 Panam. Very good. So we'll go to the shloka 25. Otherwise you can read.
Ravni Mataji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Mataji, Prabhuji Dandat Pranams. 2.5.25. Tamasad api bhutadher vikurvanad abhunabaha tasya matra gunaha shabdho lingam yadrashtridrishtayoho. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. From the darkness of false ego, the first of the 5 elements, namely the sky, is generated. Its subtle form is the quality of sound, exactly as the seer is in relationship with the seen. Purport. These 5 elements, namely sky, air, fire, water, and earth, are all but different qualities of the darkness of false ego. This means that the false ego in the sum total form of Mahatattva is generated from the marginal potency of the Lord, And due to this false ego of lording it over the material creation, ingredients are generated for the false enjoyment of the living being. The living being is practically the dominating factor over the material elements as the enjoyer, though the background is the Supreme Lord. Factually, save and except the Lord, no one can be called the enjoyer, but the living entity falsely desires to become the enjoyer. This is the origin of false ego. When the bewildered living being desires this, the shadow elements are generated by the will of the Lord, and the living entities are allowed to run after them as after a phantasmagoria.
Yeah, I think some another Mataji can read.
Okay, Prabhu.
Yeah, then.
Shanti Mataji.
Hare Krishna. It is said that first the Tanmatra sound is created and then the sky. And in this verse, it is confirmed that actually it is so. But sound is the subtle form of the sky. And the distinction is like that between the seer and the seen. The sound is the representation of the actual object, as the sound produced speaking of the object gives an idea of the description of the object. Therefore, sound is the subtle characteristics of the object. Similarly, sound representation of the Lord in terms of his characteristics is the complete form of Lord, as was seen by Vasudeva and Maharaja Dasharatha, the fathers of Lord Krishna and Lord Rama. The sound representation of the Lord is non-different from the Lord himself, because the Lord and his representation is sound or absolute knowledge. Lord Chaitanya has instructed us that in the holy name of Lord and in the holy name of the Lord, as sound representation of the Lord, all the potencies of the Lord are invested. Thus, one can immediately enjoy the association of the Lord by the pure variation of the sound representation of his holy name, and the concept of the Lord is immediately manifested before the pure devotee. A pure devotee, therefore, is not aloof from the Lord even for a moment. The holy name of the Lord, as recommended in the Shastras, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, may therefore be constantly chanted by the devotee, aspiring to be constantly in touch with the Supreme Lord. One who is thus able to associate with the Lord is sure to be delivered from the darkness of the created world, which is a product of false ego, that is Tamasima Jyotirgama. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thanks, Mataji. So now we come to the next sloka. Here it is from the darkness of the false ego. From this ahankara, actually the 5 elements are also generated, and the first one to be generated is actually the sky. The sky is that area which is actually the space, or it is also called as nabha. So from that, the subtle form of what is generated is actually the sound. Sound comes first, and with that sound, that means if the sound comes, it means that an object is there. Something is preceding, an object is there. So like that, Prabhupada gives that, mentions that the sound is the one which is actually the Lord's representation. Lord's representation. The holy name is actually the first one which comes, and behind that holy name, actually the personality of the Lord is also there. So Lord, he doesn't appear to us directly, but he comes. He gives us first the sound representation. He appears, he gives us some clue, and that is actually the sound. And so Prabhupada ultimately says, what better way of worshipping the Lord? We may not be able to see the Lord, we may not be able to understand his potencies, but just by listening to the sound and we also utter the sound, glorify the Lord and take to the kirtan of the Lord, and that's it. We actually, the pure vibration of this sound representation of the holy name itself is enough to deliver any living entity. So that is how he concludes in a wonderful way. And the best mantra for that is actually the Maha Mantra, is actually the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which actually the Shastras have also proclaimed. In the Kali Santarana Upanishad, It is very, Brahma actually is advising to Narad Muni. So as we understand, Kali Santarna Upanishad, it's one of the prominent Upanishads under 108 Upanishads. So it is very Kali, Kali Yuga, Santarna. Tarana means swimming or crossover. Santarna means in a very auspicious way. If you have to cross over this Kali Santarna, if you have to cross over in a very, very auspicious way, and then you'll get a perfect, favorable destination. So what you have to do? So in that, Brahmaji tells Narad Muni, Iti Sodashakam Namnam, Kali Kalmashanashanam, Nato Parataropaya, Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. So it is mentioned there, Iti Shodashaka Namna, the 16 words, the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So these 16 words are the ones which actually are the ones which are going to deliver you from this sinful Kali Yuga. Iti Kalmasha Nashanam, Kali Kalmasha. In this contamination of this Kali, it's a contaminated world, you can get over, cross over very successfully if you are taking to this chanting of the holy mantra. And then Brahma says, Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate, Nato Parataropaya. There is no other way, there is no solution which I have found out except this. I have searched, I have browsed through the entire Vedas, and the only solution which I found out is that this chanting of the holy mantra, Nato Parataropaya, Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. Like that he says, and then he gives this mantra to Narad Muni. So, and that's the same mantra which you are also chanting. So we are so fortunate to be associated in this very, very bona fide sampradaya, which is coming directly from Brahma to Narad Muni to Vyasdev to Madhvacharya, and then it came to Madhvendra Puri, Ishwara Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So like this, this wonderful sampradaya which we are following. So ultimately, this is the sound manifestation is the one which is very, very important for us. And that's why even among the 9 angas of the bhakti, the 9 ways of reaching the Lord, first is Shravanam and then the Kirtanam. These two are coming first. First we have to listen, we have to hear. Once the hearing is proper, is Shuddha, then we can chant the holy name. Like how the child, when the new baby is born, it's just hearing. The ears are there, very prominent, and ears is one of the most sensitive organs, and one of the amongst all the 5 organs, this ears also is very, very powerful, and the child also gets to hear a lot of things, and it sees a lot of people talking, somebody singing, somebody yelling, somebody all that it sees. Now it also wants to imitate them. It also wants to talk, and that is how the child also gets an inspiration by looking at others, and it starts blabbering, and then small one syllable, 2 syllable, and then it starts talking, and then finally it learns how to speak. So like that, this Shravanam Kirtanam is very, very important for our spiritual life. Okay, so we'll go to 26 and 29. Yeah, who is the next? I think Vandana Mataji, and Nandini Mataji. Yeah, can share the purport.
Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam, Hare Krishna, everyone. Nabhashota vikurvana adbhut sparsha guna nilaha paranvayak Chabdavamscha prana oja saho balam vayorapi vikurvanat kala karma svabhavatah udpadyata tejo vai rupavat sparsha shabdavat tejasastu vikurvanat ashit amborasatmakam rupavat sparshavak chambho goshavakcha paranvayat Visheshastu vikurvanat ambaso gandhavan abhut paranvayat rasasparsh shabda rupa gunanvitaha. Shall I read the translation?
I think somebody else is also waiting, Mataji. Yeah. Nandini Mataji can read the translation, and Anusaya Mataji can read the purport.
Hare Krishna. Translation by A.C. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Because the sky is transformed, the air is generated with the quality of touch, and by the previous succession of the air is also
full of sound, and the basic principles of duration of life, sense perception, mental power, and bodily strength. When the air is transformed in course of time and nature's course, fire is generated, taking shape with the sense of touch and sound. Since fire is also transformed, there is a manifestation of water full of justice and taste. As previously, it is also has form, it also has form and touch, and is also full of sound, and water being transformed from all the varietedness on earth appears odorous and as previously becomes qualitatively full of juice and form respectively. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mother. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The whole process of creation is an act of gradual evolution and development from one element to another, reaching up to the variegatedness of the earth, as so many trees, plants, mountains, rivers, reptiles, birds, animals, and varieties of human beings. The quality of sense perception is also evolutionary, namely generated from sound, then touch, and from touch to form. Taste and odor are also generated along with the gradual development of the sky, air, fire, water, and earth. They are all mutually the cause and effect of one another, but the original cause is the Lord himself in plenary portion, as Mahavishnu lying in the casual water of the Mahatattva. As such, Lord Krishna is described in the Brahma Samhita as the cause of all causes, and this is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 10.8 as follows. Aham sarvasva prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. The qualities of sense perception are fully represented in the earth, and they are manifested in another elements to a lesser extent. In the sky, there is sound only, whereas in the air, there are sound and touch. In the fire, there are sound, touch, and shape. And in the water, there is taste also along with the other perceptions, namely sound, touch, and shape. In the earth, however, there are all the above mentioned qualities with an extra development of order also. Therefore, on the earth, there is a full display of variegatedness of life, which is originally started with the basic principle of air. Diseases of the body take place due to derangement of air within the earthly body of the living beings. Mental diseases result from the air in order so that diseases of the body become almost nil by such exercises. When they are properly done, the duration of life also increases, and one can have control over death also by such practices. A perfect yogi can have command over death and quit the body at the right moment, when he is competent to transfer himself to a suitable planet. The Bhakti Yogi, however, surpasses all the yogis because by dint of his devotional service, he is promoted to the region beyond the material sky and is placed in one of the planets in spiritual sky by the supreme will of the Lord, the controller of everything. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. So this actually is a culmination of all that what we studied just now. I mean, we only touched upon the sky and the sound. So what we have to understand here is that there is a Pancha Bhuta, correct? The 5 elements, which is actually the ether, air, and then you have the fire, and then you have the water and the earth. These are the 5 elements. And corresponding to that, we have the 5 sense objects. What are the sense objects? From the sky, we can, that is actually the hearing, sound. Then from the air, you can touch. You get the feeling of the touch, the sense of touch. And then from the fire, there is a form, which is there. This is actually the sense object. And by the water, the taste. This is the sense object. And then by earth, the smelling is there. So, and for this, the 5 organs are the ear, then the form we can see by eyes, and then the air, the touch is the skin. We can feel the feelings by the skin, and then by eyes we can see the form, and then by water we can taste. By the mouth we can taste the water, and then by the nose we can smell the smell through the earth. So this way, all these the five elements, 5 sense objects, and the 5 organs are in order. This is how we can understand. And finally, Prabhupada also gives very clearly that this evolution, everything starts from air. So as long as you control the body air, that is what the most of the yogi people, they do, is that they pranayama, Sudarshana Kriya, so many other Kriyas, all that what they're doing is just controlling the air. And in that air also there are 5 varieties, apana, pana, apana, like that. There are 5 varieties of the air which has to be controlled within the body. And if you are able to control and do all that mystic yogis, then they will not get any disease. So that is the understanding. And then what we have to understand here is that as far as in the sound is concerned, it is only in the sky we can only hear the sound, right? In the air there is sound and touch. These two will also get added, the 2 sense objects, because when the air is blowing, when the wind is blowing, you can feel also it touches your body, and also you can hear it. Then in the fire there is sound, touch, and shape, or a form that the fire can destroy. Object is there, it can also burn it. The form is lost, or it can create another form. So that is how those 3 objects are there. One is that you can hear the fire blazing, and if you touch it, you will feel that fire, and then it can create a form. And in the water, there is taste is getting added. All the other 3, sound is there, touch is there, shape is there, plus taste also gets added. And in the 5th one, finally the earth, the smell is getting added. And in that earth, you have sound, you have touch, you have shape, you have taste, as well as you have order. So like this, in the earth, everything will culminate, all the 5 sense objects will culminate, and it is available to us. That is how, wonderful creation which the Lord has made, which is actually beyond our comparison, beyond our comprehension. It is called very, very achintya, inconceivable potency of the Lord. And then he is making us to make right use of these resources. And if you're able to use right use of the resources, then you will win the exam. You can pass out in the exam. So finally, Prabhupada explains that Bhakti Yoga is the one which surpasses all the yogas, because here we are directly praying. I mean, we are doing the worship, we are understanding the whole philosophy, and then we are accepting the supremacy of the Lord and understanding that everything, even a blade of grass, if it has to move, it is by the supreme will of the Lord. And with that understanding, we conduct our life, and definitely the success is by us. Lord will definitely, he will deliver success for us. Hare Krishna. So that I'll just complete this session. And if they have anyone doubts, has clarifications or realization, please share.
Mataji, Prabhuji, if you have any questions, you can ask to Prabhuji.
Prabhuji? Oh, sorry, Mataji, please go ahead.
Yeah, Prabhu,
Yeah, please ask.
Once again, highlight how does these 5 elements, which is an inconceivable potency of the Lord, to do with Bhakti Yoga, meaning what is the connection with Bhakti Yoga and these 5 elements? Yeah, actually, when we do our Aradhana, worship of the Lord, we are using all our organs, right? All the objects. Generally, when we look at the Lord, I mean, when we go to the temple, we are hankering to see the Lord, see the devotees, see the decoration. So we are using our eyes. Our sight, which is there, is meant for seeing the Lord. So we are dedicating our eyes. We are not seeing all the the movies, or movie stars or film stars or so many celebrities, or we are not seeing all those rubbish which is happening. Right? We don't want to look at it into the material world, because we know material world. We have come to that understanding that this material world is all it is just a waste of time. Like that's why Purandarasa has mentioned in one song, Lolalatte, Yalla Lolalatte. Lolalatte means just it is of no value, no significance.
wonderful the kirtan he has given, that whatever is there in this material world, ultimately it is all like a bubble on the air. And on that also he has given a kirtan that saying that neerina mele gulleyante. Whatever is there, it's like bubble. As the water at the wind washes away, the bubble is also washed away. So like this, whatever you try to create in this material world is of temporary nature. So like this. So what I was telling was that the eyes we are making use by having darshan of the Lord, seeing the deity, the beauty of the Lord, and also we are interacting with the devotees. So like this. And when it comes to the arti, we see the arti, and then we take the the mercy of the Lord through the fire, because fire is the perfect witness. Is one of the even the Vedas are mentioned that fire is the one which is the foremost among all the witness. So we are honoring the arti, and then we are agarbatti smell or the tulsi smell or the Narsimha scented oil. We are our noses are being used, is utilized, and our tongue is used for chanting and tasting prasad, and our ears ultimately are for hearing the glories of the Lord. So this way we are completely engaging our body, our feet for walking or going to the temple, our hands for serving the Lord. So like this, the whole, the entire our body, our organs, subtle as well as the subtle in terms of the mind, intelligence, and ego, everything we are offering it to the Lord, and we are using it for the service of the Lord, which otherwise would have gone and probably did in a very, very unsacrilegious way of going to a movie or a mall or spending on a materialistic note without caring for anything, because there the enjoyment, our sense enjoyment is the main predominant feature. Whereas in this Bhakti Yoga, the predominant feature is that we want to see that Lord enjoys. Now He is the supreme enjoyer, and then we are just His servants. And that way we dedicated our life to serving the Lord, which is actually the Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is a culmination of all, using all our senses and our intelligence, mind, and ego to serve the Lord. Sab siddhim haritoshnam. Bhagavatam says, some siddhim, the perfect result, what you can get is by pleasing the Supreme Lord. Haritoshnam. If you please the Lord, then Lord will automatically please you, right? So that is the understanding, Mataji. I hope I have clarified it.
Yes, Prabhuji, perfect. Perfect,
Yes.
Prabhuji, understood. Thank you so much.
Prabhuji, one question. So please correct me if I'm wrong, Prabhuji.
Yes.
So the culmination of all the Panchabhutas is what is going to evolve the sense objects and next the senses. Am I correct in my understanding, Prabhuji?
No, the culmination of all the objects are basically, that is the air actually. The sense objects are basically the air, touch, what we discussed, starting from the space actually, the sound, touch, form, then taste, and the smell. These are the 5 sense objects. So the beginning point is the sound or the sky. Got it? And then the air. Then the air comes. Whereas the Pancha Bhutas, the elements are there 5 separate. I mean, that's again, Lord's manifestation through the Mahatattva, it is all there. And the organs also from the Lord's creation. These from the Mahatattva, we get these organs.
Okay. Okay, Prabhuji. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, but the air plays a very important, that's what in Ayurveda also, actually there are only 3, if a person is falling sick, it is because of 3 problems. What is that? Kapha, Vata, Pitta. Kapha is because of too much water in the body. Because of that, you get cold, cough. And Vata is too much, air in the body and heat in the body. And then Pitta is actually heat. And then Vata is, I think, because of the another one factor, which I'm not able to tell you. So this way, just the 3. Now the Ayurvedic, if you go to the Ayurvedic doctor, either he will treat you for any of these 3 ailments. Kapha, Vata, Pitta. And with that, they will cure.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for your time and very logical explanation and nice explanations. Thank you so much, Prabhu. We'll
Yes,
do
Prabhu.
Vaishnav Pranam and end the session, Prabhu.
Yeah, Haribol. Pancha kalpatarusha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantapati Vaishnav ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Gurudev Maharaj ki jai. Hare
Jai.
Krishna.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Prabhuji.
Haribol, thank you so much.
Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna Mati. Yeah, thank you.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Meet
Dandavat
again
pranam.
tomorrow morning.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Haribol.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much,
Hare Krishna,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Wonderful session.
Haribol.
Hare
Hare Krishna
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Okay, Prabhu, with your permission, shall I end the session?
Yes, I also.